Well, here we go. It's not the same color, and it is satin. It's pretty close. It's pretty close. The pan is down below. But I did get, and I wish I would have just freaking started with this. So it's just VHT. In this case, it's what do they call this? Burnt orange. Burnt copper. And that's really cool. It's the color I was going after, that copper look. But this sits for 3 hours. I just, of course, stripped them all the way down. Put a coat of primer on them. Wet sanded them this morning. Wiped them down with wax and grease. And then shot them. And they have to go in the oven at 200 or the highest temp for any component in it. In this case, the primer that I have on is 200, is rated for 200 degrees. But that sets the paint. What the hell do they say? Extremely important. After paint is completely dry, it must be cured to substantially increase the durability of the finish and enhance the chemical resistance. Bake at 200 for an hour. Do not exceed the heat tolerance of the least heat tolerant part. In this case, it's the primer, which is 200 degrees, so it doesn't really matter. So I'll set the oven for 200. Throw these in for an hour. I did some reading online, and evidently it's non-caustic after the. That's what I told Lisa. I told my wife. So anyway, so those are painted. Radiator came in today. Four-row aluminum with a fan. It's a nice looking unit. It's made in China. You can kind of see this side here. They got a little bit of a bow in this. That kind of upsets me, so I'll have to tinker around with that here, but it's not horrible. I'll figure that out. But now I got to set him in there, get some hoses, and proceed with filling with water. And look for more leaks. Today, the belt for that comes in, so I'll belt that, and fill it with power steering fluid. We're getting close, folks. Oh, that kit, the power steering kit, I got to check on that. That supposedly shipped last week, so I got to check on that too. So that's what we know so far. Okay guys, here it is. Base timing was about 10 degrees. I got the RPM up right now, braking in the cam. The time is about 3 o'clock, 3:20. Now we got to shut her down.
Out of gas?
Hey guys, by now you've seen the engine run. It fired up. It ran. A couple of things that didn't work. I got a trouble coat. I got a big bunch of it stumbled and farted as I was braking in the cam. It was going fine. And then it just frickin' died. One of the trouble codes was an injector 3. That's this guy. Stuck open. And when it died, when I refired it, it blew a bunch of black smoke, and it did it again on this side. It was frustrating to say the least, but I got, 15 minutes of the cam braking, of the 20 minutes. Not continuous, probably 10. No, it was 9. It was 9. And then that, and then I fired it right back up, took it up again. probably for about another 5 or 6 minutes, and then shut it down. What the hell happened then? I heard a rattling noise, and then I noticed a leak on the ground. I got floor dry on the ground, and hissing, and steam coming out of the exhaust nuts. So these are studs, and I did use a pipe thread sealant, but it must not have withstood the temp. So anyway, I shut that, just to finish that, shut that down, started up, and did a bunch of burps and high RPM stuff. Anyway, I got the cam broken in. Long and the short of it is, it sounds just beautiful. Let it idle after running it. Varied the RPM, kept it up, keep the splash on the cam, and by and large, that whole process, although stressful, went well. Couple of things. Number one is the engine. So with the radiator, the sensor that came with the radiator, open at 180, or rather close, turn the fan on at 180 degrees, and then switch it off at 165. I got a 180 degree thermostat. I knew that when I ordered it, but of course the fan never shuts off. You know, the thermostat opens at 180 and the fan runs. So anyway, I ordered a 210 185, 200, pardon me, 200 185 thermostat. Turn on at 200, turn off at 185. So then the engine will run in that neighborhood of 180. You know, to keep the RPM up, I just put a piece of wire in here, came around, you know, and then just tied it off after I got, you know what, wherever I got 2,500, 2,800 RPM, tied it off and just let it run there. Valve covers, baked them, they flaked. The primer, I mean, the paint dried harder than shit, but the primer adhesion was the mess. It bubbled at the primer level. So, you know, whatever. 6 times is a charm, right? You know, frick. That one didn't, this one did. Regardless, I got to do those over again. So, what I basically did is I ordered the, you know, whatever, 15 bucks, ordered the proper switch for the fan. Let's see, I got the fan belt coming, or the power steering belt coming. I did test the alternator while I ran it. That, you know, everything there, electrically, everything works great. One of the other trouble codes that came up was the transmission. I noticed I did shift it into drive and I shifted it into reverse. That worked, but it wasn't shifting. Well, here it was in limp home mode in 3rd gear on this 46RE, and it turns out I threw a code which was no transmission relay. So I wired in the transmission relay, which tells it, hey, you know, I'm here. We got governor pressure we're going to monitor. We got the 2, 3, 4 shift we're going to monitor. The torque converter clutch we're going to monitor. Very simple setup, but relay's got to be fired. It's got to see it. So that's fine. That's up and going. The story will be told on that, but it does go into gear. It's quiet, no noises, that kind of thing. I got the proper sealant for the threads. Pulled every single one of the bottom. So the top studs on a Hemi go into the cylinder head and are open to the oil on the rocker arm side, on the top side of the cylinder head. The bottoms go into the water jacket, and thread sealant isn't good enough. You need a high temp Loctite. Geez, 5491. I can't remember right offhand, but I can show you. I guess I remember. Permatex, not Loctite. Permatex thread sealant. Right there. 59214. 59214. Poked around on the net for that. 24-hour cure. I'm going to honor the 24-hour cure. I dropped the water out of it. I'm just running water. There's no antifreeze in here because this is all got to come off. And cleaned it up. Pulled every one of those out, and they're hard. They're hard to do around the headers. But it ran good. It sounds just beautiful. And I'll get a good quality sound video for you. Timing, ran the timing light on it to see where my base timing was. 10.5. 10.5 at idle, which is, I wanted 10. We can fine tune it if we want on the ECM now. But everything worked to plan with the setup with the star wheel and the Hall effect sensor from the original Dodge. So I'm just ecstatic. Next week we're coming in and we're going to do the tuning. My brother has worked with tuning. He's got software for it. We'll download the method to do the updates. We'll shut off a bunch of stuff. You know, we're not going to look for the evap canister. We're not going to look for a number of things. So we'll shut those off so I don't throw a check engine light for some of the things that aren't going to be options on this particular car. But other than that, I'm pleased this punch. There's always a punch list until you get there, but nothing major. The oil leak, I was able to take this inspection plate off to look at the camshaft plug, and the two threaded pipe plugs on the end of each of the lifter journals, and neither of those were leaking, so it's got to be the rear main, and I did grease the rear main, so I don't know why it pushed a little oil out. I'm going to monitor it at this point, but if I need to do the rear seal, you know, it's not. I'll do it before I put the body on, but I'll have to pull the tranny in the pan and take the rear main journal off and do this rear seal. But I mean, that's not the end of the world. I mean, for crying out loud. Poked around online and I sent a blog out saying, hey, should I use the factory black covers that use these holes that hide the wires all the way to the back, or should I expose it like this? And so many guys just do it this way, right? And I got 50% said, show it. It look, you know, the dragster look. And 50% said, go with the nostalgia. The nostalgia's cool. Well, then I started pinging around for wheel cylinder caps, dust caps for large truck wheel cylinders. Whoops. And I found these 1.875 OD, 1.8 OD actually, and it turns out these machine washers are 1.875, and these washers, the ID fits the 1.25 inch diameter of the tube, and that pushes the seal down. But then these, they just snap on to those washers. So I'm pulling these down the plug wires, and then you've got your dust covers and a nice decorative. That's freaking beautiful. And so now I'm thinking I'll probably do something that threads into here, and so I can dress the wires, you know, more evenly across the valve covers using those too. That one will be out there, but or not, or just leave them like they are. But just finishing it up. But you don't want those tubes to fill with water. So these will go on they fit the 8mm wire just perfectly, and snap onto that washer just perfectly. So it's luck, I think. I don't know. Let me know. Maybe you guys do it. There. She's sealed right on there. That's cool as heck. Anyway, that's where we're at today. More of a just not a lot of work to it. I'm doing maybe more of the punch list, right? Find the leak in the rear of the engine, seal the exhaust studs, install the higher temp 210 185. That's what I got, 210 185. Wire the trans relay, which I finished. I finished that. Clearance the header and the steering all. I just wanted to have a little bit more clearance down in here as that engine settles in. So I did take the steering shaft off and pinged around on it. It's got substantially more, easy 1/4 of an inch. So it's hard to get an angle that's going to work, but I did get that out of it. Just so that, you know, the engine is sitting on rubber, you know, if it does tap on it. I don't want the engine steering me. So anyway, that's what we got. That's what we got. All the relay banks are filled. Number 6 is the transmission relay now, the one that I just wired in. I'm using that little fuse for the transmission relay. I'm just dedicating that. And the rest of these are fuel pump, the other things that are necessary that you saw in other videos. Anyway, thanks folks. We'll keep on keeping you posted, and we will go from there. Have a great day. Okay, I'm dreaming right now about making some sort of an engine cover. So I just started by taking, there might have been a video on, you know, this piece that I'd made earlier to be the beginnings of an air cleaner. And then I went and purchased an air cleaner, and then just trying to follow my bead roll with I'll position that accordingly. But I'm thinking that this would mount underneath the air cleaner. This is a cast, aluminum casting, so I can attach it, you know, screw it or whatever to the bottom of that. Or something different, you know. I at this point I don't know. But so then I would come around and I would grab, you know, I got the transmission kick down cable. Just got the clearance for that. Cover it. The throttle cable would come around down into here and loop around and tie in that, because that's how it is. And then I was thinking, you know, I made these long, but I could make some more. But I would do some sort of a cutout right here so that you can easily get to the filler, and another one here. So this would be a, you know, some kind of a shape that would allow for easy access to the vitals. And then, but I want to transition, so I have this, whatever this is, you know, 2.5, 3 inch depth. I want to be able to transition around the corner. So I'm almost thinking about some sort of maybe a smaller 1 inch tube, kind of bent and welded to this to come around, or a formed piece, it doesn't matter, to sharpen up that curve to come around and tie in, and then you know, relief for those items. And then up front, of course, the thermostat housing's got to come on. There's the pieces that screw down to it. I don't know if this is going to get maybe get shoved ahead a little bit more, because I offset that. Or no, it's going to get shoved. Well, you know, which way is it going to go on? So at this juncture, I think I'm going to slice these off and just keep kind of picking away at it. We'll see. Just a little project for the day. Okay, so I tigged on. You can see some of my mess here. burned through. But I dollied a lot of it. You know, it looks good. And then I'm going to continue to play with it, but I think when I put it on the air cleaner, the air cleaner sits up just a little bit, see? So he just sits up just a little bit, and I'm setting it on top of the throttle body right now, but I will likely attach it to the air cleaner. So I think at this point I'm probably in that arena where I should start to consider cutting this out and or at least centering it, at least marking where it's going to be on the air cleaner. So as I said, I want it to set down on something so that I can kind of identify with what it looks like. So I'm kind of caught between starting to chop it up and finding the center, because originally when I made this piece, I was offsetting. This was going to be the base. I was offsetting the air cleaner and yada, 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 yada. But this was bolting onto the throttle body mount, which isn't practical thinking. So what I'm going to do is mount it to the bottom of the air cleaner base so that when you pull the top hat off by unscrewing it, you can take the engine cover off and service becomes a lot easier. But I really can't start diving into the reliefs and the rest of the shape until I get it in the location that it's going to be. So I think my next step is to at least open up that hole and get it so it temporarily sits on the throttle body so that I can draw on it. But I'm very happy so far with the progress. I guess that's the point of this little snippet. Thanks, guys. Hey, guys. Just been doing some test and tune and running the engine out here a little bit, but that's the cover. I don't even know if I like it. I mean, this is going up to 4 inches, but it's almost like you want to cover the air cleaner. But that's just it's attached to the bottom of the base of this oval. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, just 1/4 inch screws pulling it up so it stays with the base. And I rimmed the backside. You know, you got to be able to make the adjustments, bring the vacuum hose out, run the throttle cable in, loops around, grab the transmission kick down. If I do go with cruise, the cruise cable comes out right beside that. And then in front, I kind of let off about 1/2 of an inch in front of the injector rail on that side and did the same thing on this side. And so I let that kind of, that kind of a twist in there, and then relieved or rolled this edge back for the thermostat or the coolant hoses coming to the thermostat housing. So I don't know. I mean, maybe this should come down and close that out, but then if I put an AC compressor on, then I need it, just like the alternator. So I don't know. I don't know yet. It looks like something on top of something. But if I squirt it, the color of the valve covers, will it make a difference? Is the air cleaner just too small? Will the height of the air cleaner give a little more aesthetic? Should the air cleaner be like the whole length? Should there be a different type of a air cleaner housing, like a scoop or something? I just don't know. I just don't know. But that's where it's at so far. Can sit and think about it now for the next millennia. Hey guys. Oh, by now we've seen the engine run. We got a couple 3 trouble codes right now. Of course, I haven't driven it, but I was able to get everything kind of down to to 3 trouble codes. One, of course, just can't see the instrument cluster, and the other 2 are related, the evap canister and the purge for the tank vent, and the you know, the purge to purge tank exhaust fumes into the intake. So jury's out on that at this point. I'm not that overly concerned. If I need to do something down the road, I'll get something done down the road. Chrysler uses a battery temp sensor, and originally I figured out a hack using a resistor to give it a charge, give it a signal to go ahead and charge the. Let me back up. Chrysler uses a battery temp sensor to regulate, as an assist, the alternator in pushing the charging voltage. Originally, I bypassed it with a resistor, just giving it charging. But after I looked through the factory service manual, I opted to go ahead and go with it. It was a little work. You can see it right there. I did install it. And I pulled all the wiring up to a connector. Right here. Along with the positive through that channel under the body. And I am going to use it because it regulates the pressure, the voltage. It pushes to the battery based on the battery's temperature. And I really like that because it could actually make a battery last a lot longer. So I'm going to use it. It threw a code when it's left open. That's why you see I got another one from the scrap yard just to plug in. I yanked it to plug it in while I was testing. I had a drip on that fuel rail, and it was the same thing. The screws that retain these, this retaining clip that holds the injectors in, they were blind drilled, but I suppose when I was tapping them, I just pushed a little material and caused just minor leaks. They were just minor drips, but the fuel pressure caused them to drip, and I didn't find them in a test, but the fuel pressure eventually caused drips. So I went through all those and sealed them with that white Loctite, or Permatex, thread sealant. Good stuff. I got the O2 sensor buried into the manifold, but I did get a long cold start. One. However, I did leave the unit plugged in and walked away and with the ignition on. So that might have thrown the code. But if I need to move that to the thermostat housing, I will. This has got to be over 160 in 2 minutes, and that may be a problem. Everything, I got the power steering pump connected, hoses routed, bled it yesterday, just using the channel lock and steering it back and forth, lock to lock, until I got no more bubbles. Then filled it up. So at this point now, I want to get the wire routing into the chassis. So I am taking the harness. This is the PCM side. This was laying over on that side. And this is the power distribution box side where I've got the labels. Now I went through with redundancy and labeled them with the little, you can see the pink and green and yellow labels, and numbered them to the terminals on the power distribution center. So of course I'll need to get the correct length to get connectors on them. But what I'm thinking is I want to run both the power distribution center and the fuse box up on the transmission tunnel, and then I'll do a closeout for them where I can remove the closeout for easy access. So rather than these wires coming over here on the Dodge up the firewall and down here, I'm going to try to get them to marry somewhere around the firewall here. So I've adjusted all of my routings and my wiring. I don't know if I videoed this. I have a bat positive terminal block right there now. That's the bat cable coming up. I have a terminal block to access it from here. And on the top of the transmission tunnel. So at this point I can get the power distribution box in and begin the easier job of wiring up the fuse box from the power distribution box, and then the long drawn out fuse box to the various accessories, to the various components. So fortunately that power distribution box provides voltage signals for a lot of stuff. I just need to split that into certain fuses per the FSM. I want to follow that so that I'm driving the amount of current or the amount of fusible link to the PCM as desired. So everything here was wired through one fuse, and the relay fuses, or the two fuses in the power distribution box to support the relays, I guess. Yeah, that's correct. Anyway, so now we're in a position to begin to move forward. I will get this harness done. For some people, this is a scary endeavor because there are a lot of wires. But I'm going to segregate them and try to get a routing that's most optimum for getting in through one harness into the firewall. So stick with me. We will keep pursuing. No use me setting this up on a stand and filming. This is really boring shit. It's just a lot of you know what I mean, feeding, routing, and playing. So I'll be back with you later. All right, guys, that was about 4 or 5 hours now. So if we recall, in about this neighborhood right here, that was where the PCM, powertrain control module, was sitting over there. In this location right here, that's where the power distribution box was sitting, and I had it sitting up on here. So basically I opened the harness up all the way across, took all the sheathing off, all the convoluted tubing, and you can see here is the location of the original wires. And all these wires here flowed back, you know, again into here and across to there, and then out to these connectors. So one by one I pulled all those wires out to take up the length, because I'm moving these next to each other now. So those were direct to this. And then several of the other ones, of course, run out to the injectors, the various engine sensors and devices. And so for those, they ran out to the sensors and devices, came out to here, and obviously some of those come over to here. This batch right here. About 20, I suppose, total. So those I carefully cut, took this many, that many, and I cut, you can see, about a foot or so off of each one of those wires, and resoldered them and heat shrunk them and tied them back in. When I do that, by the way, I put the joint at a different spot every time. So then, of course, I put the harness back together, kept them nice and close. So these will go up through the firewall now in some fashion. Still working that out. This was the AC outside. It's called the AC request, pin C22. And the other AC control wires are up on here that go up through the fuse links and the switches. And so that would wind up being inside anyway, or I would penetrate the firewall elsewhere. It enabled me then to tighten the harness up. So this bolt was over here because of where that T was. I moved him up, brought him around. Of course, this is right where the dipstick tube channel is in the body. This follows underneath the bell housing, so I know it'll clear. I mean, I've checked that 1,000 times, and these are going to go up then through through the transmission tunnel into the body where I'll locate everything. Now everything runs up nice and tight, properly turns around the bell housing, and I clear my shift linkage for the automatic shifter and my O2 routing. I'll probably get a zip tie in here at some point. My O2 routing for my front and my rear. I just don't have the rear connected. And all my linkage is basically at the factory location now for its routing. So very happy with how it turned out. It's a beautiful looking harness, and looks custom designed for it. So now next step then is, of course, to identify where in the firewall this is going to poke through, and to make a weather tight fitting through there. And I might be doing a kind of maybe a square cutout where I do two halves that come together, two rings that come together with rubber seals. I did that right here. I put these both into rubber seals so I could have some tightness so this won't move, but at the same time it would hold it up against the bell housing. So I'll do something similar to that. I'm again thinking two halves that come together, even if I have to weld the tube in at an angle, you know, and cut it, they come together for that penetration through the floor or the transmission tunnel. My chassis wiring for the back, I've got, you know, way too much of it, but that too, I'm thinking I'm gonna do some sort of a connector arrangement where it plugs in at the bottom, so that I can easily pull the body off the frame down the road. So again, I could split this, pull that out, and unplug that. I'll have the same thing for the front wiring, you know, for the headlights and blinkers and stuff up front too. So, still working on it, but it is going very, very, very well. All right, thanks guys.